On to episode 2 of Hounds of Sisyphus for a recap before we get to season 2. Now, just as a reminder, I'm doing a cold read. I'm not planning what I'm saying ahead of time, so please excuse any errors that you hear because I'm lazy and I don't want to go back and edit. Alright, so let's take a look. So at this point, they've reached the town, and I think it's interesting how the gate is so representing the afterlife. It's like he says, and come out the other side of hell. So he is openly calling what's going on out in the world. It is hell. It's this hellscape where people are all being crazy to each other, and that's what they've been trying to survive recently. So is this supposed to be the gates of heaven, or is this another gate of hell? If we think of Dante's Inferno, there's multiple gates. So when we get this imagery, it could have multiple meanings. Now, at this point in time, Jinwoo is thinking that this is heaven. He's going in and he's seeing the light from the city, and he's being promised safety, and he's feeling better already at this point. He's been given shoes. So one thing to kind of remember is, where did those shoes come from? But anywho, so he's been given shoes. So he's been given a lot of resources right off the bat. So it's kind of an interesting start for him. All right, the next little bit, we're getting more of Guan's personality. And I think this is when I was really okay, I love Guan because he's just kind of a goofball, right? So he's kind of trying to ham up how amazing he is, and I love he's calling himself sweet, he's calling himself sexy, he's calling himself a gentleman. Dude, calm down. But all of this is actually working for Jinwoo. He's just oh my goodness, thank you so much for doing anything for me. And we start getting his personality, where Jinwoo is a very calm and more introverted and internal thinking person. The author actually gave us their IMBD types. Now, whether you believe those or not, it still reflects the type of character that the author was trying to portray. And Jinwoo is supposed to be an INFJ. INFJs are introverted, feeling, thinking, judging people. So he's very internalized with everything. He thinks everything through, and he kind of processes everything at kind of a pretty deep level. That's how he's supposed to be being portrayed. So he is taking what Guan is saying, and he is internalizing that and saying, this is who Guan is. He's not thinking he's too much, because he's saved his life. So at this point, he's thinking very highly of Guan. As soon as he enters the gate, then, he's seeing people laughing, he's seeing lights, and it's just kind of a calm, peaceful environment. And he's introduced to Doc. Tears. But he's introduced to Doc, and he's still being supported at this point. But he's just kind of in shock at how peaceful everything is. He hasn't been living with this recently. So again, you get that vibe of what he's been going through. And I'm really interested at this point, thinking back, how did Jinwoo get hurt? So let's say that he was attacked by somebody else, and they were robbed, and let's say that the dad was trying to help him. Why was the dad not harmed? Why was Jinwoo harmed? So it'd be nice to see that scene play back. I'm wondering how long it'll take us to get that, because I'm very curious. He actually is recounting what happened to Doc to tell him, why am I in such bad shape? And he's talking about a burglar who broke in. And I wonder if maybe the dad pretended to be someone else. Maybe it was dark and Jinwoo had turned his back and his dad hit him over the head. because I have this vibe that Jinwoo's father was a I had to look it up. So it was used to be called Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and now it's called factitious disorder imposed on another. So basically, I think that his father pretended his mother was sick, maybe even made her ill purposely so that he had someone to take care of. And what if he, for some reason, even with the apocalypse happening, he decided to do something similar to Jinwoo? What if he attacked Jinwoo and then was acting all happy, like, I'm going to be here to save you. I'm going to take care of you now. You can't leave me. And that's when Guan came in. So again, just kind of a prediction that I'm having, but going back, these are the thoughts that are starting to pop into my head while I'm reading. So he's talking with Doc right now, and Doc is letting him know kind of what's going on. And he is trying to explain a little bit what's going on with the town. Now, I've talked about it before that when he's drawing the town, it does remind me of hell. So at the very, very center, we have the Goan's house, and then the town is spread out from there. So it's kind of built on kind of a hill, mountain type shape, but it's got these different layers. So it's not built in your standard form. It's kind of got these round layers to them. I see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. I don't know if that has a specific meaning to it, but it is a really unique layout. So it's kind of interesting that the author chose to do that. I've just never seen that before, so that's kind of curious. Now, the thought of the town in general is very interesting. So the town is pretty far away from the main city. It seems like it's not close to anything else. So it was meant for people who wanted to be away from others. All the houses are like super nice for wealthy people. It has its own water system, electricity. So it's like completely off the grid and capable of being, existing during the apocalypse. So how did Guan stumble upon this place specifically? Like, did he know it existed? Did he know it prior to what was going on? Was he drawn there for a specific reason? Maybe just the location in general has some, specific, importance. It's just kind of an interesting idea that there's this magic town that had everything that they needed, and they were all drawn there by Guan, who made it safe for them. So it's kind of an interesting idea. Something else that I remember I kind of focused a lot on were the names in this episode, because we get the name we have the name of Guan, we have Jinwoo's name, we have the doc's name, and we get the one girl's name. And all of their names are pretty positive. So Guan means savior, and the doc's name, I have to scroll and try and find it real quick, but his name I remember was like wisdom. So that's why I thought that the doc was somebody that we can trust. So he is someone that Jinwoo can rely on, which makes later on even more sad. Now, something else, there are 29 people living in the town. We know that that number changes, but it'll be interesting to see if Guan tries to get it back up to that number, like if he goes searching for more people to fill that gap, or if he doesn't have any preference on the specific number of people that are in the town. Obviously, he's trying to fill the houses. So is he going to be searching for 2 or more people, or are some of the hounds going to be allowed to stay in the town at this point? It'll be kind of interesting how that plays out in season 2. Reading a little further, so there's 29 people in town, and there's 40 total, including the hounds. So that does seem like a very specific number. in different religions, 40 is a very specific number that, is used to describe time frames or to describe certain events that go on. So it might be that they try and get back up to 40. So that'd be an interesting plot where Guan is going back out to try and find more survivors that might be able to stay, and see how that turns out. Now, Doc admits that there were some original residents that are in the town. I'm wondering who they are. We don't find that out in season 1. We don't know who the original residents are. So were the original residents people that are still there at the moment? Are they people that, travel back and forth? Are they people that don't get to interact with Jinwoo? I feel like that would have gotten brought up, but really season 1 focused more on Jinwoo and Guan's relationship. So there was not a lot of background information on what's going on in the world after episode 1. So we get mostly a focus on the two characters for 23 episodes. So that's kind of interesting. Now at this point we're seeing again that everyone has to be of use. So Doc is giving the advice saying, you are a teacher. You are a teacher. Don't say anything else. Don't put yourself down. You have purpose. Make sure you keep that purpose. And we get the little, side eye that Doc is actually a veterinarian. Now, fun fact, it's kind of like an inside joke in vet scene, I guess, that if there's an apocalypse, a veterinarian is who you actually want to be around, because they are capable of taking care of all kinds of different kinds of people and critters. They have a wide knowledge of first aid, and they also know how to handle bites. So you want to have a vet on your side. So just because he's a vet does not mean that he is unqualified to help survive the apocalypse. He's actually a really good character to have. Again, you can tell why I'm sad, right? Right, so now we're introduced to Ganya. I actually had to look up how to pronounce her name, Ganya. So she is the helper for Doc, and it's interesting, her name actually means guardian, so she might have a bigger role in season 2. We know that she's going to be working with Jinwoo, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But we see her as kind of a standoffish character. She's very reserved, especially with Jinwoo. She doesn't know how to interpret what he's doing and saying, but she's also just kind of a snappy character in general. So that's just kind of her personality. It'll be interesting to see if we see anything else, but that just kind of seems like who she is. So it's kind of fun. Now going in, Jinwoo is giving the last possible house to live in, and he's thinking about, what he's going to be doing, where he is, and he ends up falling asleep. And the last thing that we see is, his little subconscious attacking Gohan. And this is kind of one of those famous scenes for the manhwa that we see. And it has Gohan being so sweet, saying, "Good morning, Teach." He has no thoughts on what's going on, doesn't think anything of it, and is just kind of like, hey, yeah, this is normal. And I really want to focus on that for a second, because Gohan thinks that this is normal, that this behavior makes sense. And that brings me back to the fact that if Gohan came out of the rubble and didn't remember anything, he's probably going with what everyone else is saying. So let's say that Jinwoo was the first person to find him. His personality and his actions would probably be very different than if, let's say, the Hounds were the ones that found him. So whoever said, this is the apocalypse. This is how we need to treat people we don't know because they're a danger to us. He reacted how they told him to. So that's kind of the feel I get for Gwan. And I think this is a really good image to show, that he kind of goes with the flow. He's doing what other people are doing and saying this is normal. And that's a little sad, but I think that helps us understand our characters a little bit better. All right, that brings me to the end of episode 2. Next is episode 3.